The iPod scene in the movie is actual art and should be studied in film class. Thank you. Hey, hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia. Welcome to a very exciting video. If you are new to my channel, you wouldn't know that I basically have a series on my channel called Book Before Movie. I started this literally when I was like 15, so give me some grace. But basically, I like comparing books and movies. It's like one of my favorite things to do in life is to read a book and watch its movie adaptation, series adaptation, whatever it may be. So I decided to make these kind of video essay, longer form contents to like dissect books and their adaptations. This one is really exciting because we have 3 pieces of media to cover because we're talking about Percy Jackson. Oh my god. I am so excited. Like when Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the show came out, I thought there was gonna be all this buzz, all this hullabaloo, and like everyone on my feed would be talking about it. And so I was like, I'm not sure if I was gonna make a video about it. I was like staving watching the show until I decided that, and literally ghost town. Like no one on my feed was talking about the Percy Jackson show. So I was like, I have to do my due diligence and actually make a video about it because no one else is doing that, or at least no one on my feed. I did a crazy thing. The last 3 days, my life has been consumed by Percy Jackson. Let me tell you what is going on. I reread Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I watched Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief from, it came out in 2010, that's what I thought. The 2010 classic. And then I watched the new Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. So that's the 3 things we're going to be talking about in this video. We're mostly going to be comparing the movie and the show to figure out if the show is just as bad as the movie is. The movie is like notoriously really bad, but I want to like get into it. Like, is it really like bad? Like, is it a bad piece of content, or like were our expectations too high? So I'm really excited to talk about all these 3 different versions of the same thing. We are going to keep referring back to the book as like the Bible of this comparison, just because like that is the written word, that is the original form of the content, and that is like the truth. That is the litmus test, if you will. Litmus? What is it called? That is, what is it called? Like the, you know how like you're doing an experiment and then you have like the experimental group and then you have the non-experimental group? That's what it is. So basically I have like a bunch of things to talk about in this video, like, but I have made some order in this video. So first we're going to be talking about like a bunch of different elements that go into making a show and a movie, and then we're gonna get into like the plot and the story, because that's, I feel like, the meat of things. Like that's really where like the most changes are, and you can see like what those changes impacted. But we're first going to start talking about the direction of the show and the movie. In this video, if I refer to something as the series, I'm talking about the TV series, not the book series. I don't know what I'm gonna be saying in this video. I don't script my content. Anything goes. So let's talk about the direction. Let's start with the movie. The movie is directed by Chris Columbus. Chris Columbus, one of my top 10 favorite white guys. I love Chris Columbus. If you don't know who Chris Columbus is, have you ever watched a great movie? A great children's movie? I don't think so. Hello, Home Alone. Hello, First 2 Harry Potters. Like, it is so classic. Like, this man loves working with kids, not in a creepy way. He just has like such heart. Like I feel like his direction really gives like a storybook kind of vibe to the film. He doesn't take any risks with the direction, I felt like, especially in the movie. Like there weren't very interesting shots or anything like that, but it was a very like storybook-esque. Like that's how I felt about it. Also, I'm not a film major, so like if you correct me about something I'm saying about like a movie, I'm like, ooh, like the color palette is really like cool tone, and you're like, no, it's warm tone. You can correct me in the comments because I'm not a film major. I've literally taken like 2 film classes in my life and I just really like movies, so I talk about them. His direction was nothing to write home about. I think it's really weird that he took on like this like edgy, like older version of Percy Jackson as a movie for him, because like what? I'm looking at the direction of his career and I'm just like kind of confused. And he notably didn't direct the Percy Jackson and the Sea Monsters, the sequel. I don't know, I thought his direction was nothing to write home about, but it did have like a classic warmth to it. Not warmth in color, but like warmth in the way that he like grounds the characters and stuff like that. I really liked. I'm also gonna talk about the cinematography and the direction at the same time. If you look at like the movie Percy Jackson, it is so crazy to me. It literally looks like a teen dystopian movie from the early 2000s. It looks like Divergent. I don't know why they did this. I don't want to tell you why they did it because I don't know. But it has this like cool toned, like lots of dark colors. And then you go over to like this series, which is so interesting because they really play with color. They play with pops of color. I love, oh my god. The series doesn't take a lot of like risks with direction, which I don't think it should. Like I talk about risks in like when when direction becomes known to something. And I don't think the point of like watching a show like Percy Jackson is like to pay attention to like the choices that the director or the cinematographer is making. So I think that's fine. That's like more like an indie film thing. But I loved how the show uses light. It's beautiful. Let me talk about it. In the show, Percy Jackson obviously is played by, I don't know his name. I don't know his name, by the little blonde kid. Should I know his name? Wallace? Walker? Walker. It's played by Walker, right? We're on a first name basis. And he's this little blonde kid, and I know like, we'll get to the casting choices made in both the movie and the show, but he's blonde. And I feel like they really used light a lot in like these scenes that were like really grounding his character. There's this one scene in particular that like stuck out so much in my mind where like he's sitting at like the cafeteria table with Grover and the light leaks right onto like the back of his head, and it's like, it's kind of backlit, and it's so beautiful because you have this association with like the light being like the hero, like golden Olympus vibes, and also being Walker, the actor who's playing Percy Jackson, because of his light hair. And I feel like it's beautiful. It's a really smart like association to make. And they do it with like his scenes with Grover in the beginning, and also like his scenes with his mom, like really pay attention to like where the kind of golden toned light is hitting. Also in the movie, the only real pops of color, the only time color really comes into play is at Camp Half-Blood. That's where you see the greens. That's where you see like the saturation of like the, what are they called? The helmet that they're wearing in Capture the Flag. But in the series, it starts from the beginning, and you have Walker wearing this like, Percy wearing this like red raincoat, and you see that he's kind of the color of this world. Like it's not very colorful, and then it like becomes like very much colorful once he gets to the camp and everything, and like everyone's wearing lots of different colors. And like you can see in the movie, like they're not wearing a lot of color. Like it's really interesting. And I think that it helps with like the tone of it, because I think the tone is super different in the series versus the movie. Obviously they're aimed at different age categories, their actors are different ages, the stories are super different, but I think that like the way that the costuming, the cinematography, and everything works together really shows that like they're so different. And I really loved the contrast in the series between like how like colorful and fun everything is. Like there's a lot of sun, there's a lot of light, like the city, like New York City is really vibrant, and like places that they're going are really vibrant. The diner, like the gnome place, like the food that gets laid out by Medusa is all really colorful and stuff. But then you get to the underworld and it's all like grayscale. I loved that. That was such a smart contrast, because I really loved the underworld in the series. The underworld in the movie is nuts. The underworld in the movie is like basically just Hades's like palace or whatever. And it's like, it's kind of a vibe. Like it's very like ritzy. It's very glamorous. Like Persephone is all like dressed up, and like Hades is like Mick Jagger. Like it's very strange. It's very like regal in the movie, but like in the series it's very like desolate, decrepit, maybe is the right word. It is real, you know? That's my notes on direction and cinematography. My notes on casting. I know what you want me to say. I know what you want me to say. I know you want me to be like, Logan Lerman shouldn't have played Percy. I love Logan Lerman as Percy. I think there's a problem fundamentally with the script of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief that has nothing to do with Logan Lerman's performance. I think Logan Lerman's performance of Percy Jackson is super different than Walker in the series, but I think they're playing two different Percys. Like I read the whole Percy Jackson series, granted it was a while ago, but I do think like the way that Logan Lerman plays Percy Jackson is like how Percy Jackson kind of comes off in the later books and stuff. Like his disposition is different, but it's still like grounded in the kind of like taking risks, being a little comical, being a little sassy, things like that. But I love Walker as Percy. It is absolutely fantastic. Like I don't know like what happened when like the series got cast, but like there was just like this whole big wave on the internet. I think like everyone's racism was showing, because like they were really mad about the casting of the series. But I really like all of the cast. I think Percy in the series is so much more like the Percy that we get in the books. He's silly, he is goofy, he stands up for what he believes in, but he doesn't mind talking back and being a little bit sassy. And that more aligns to like the narration style of the books. The narration in the books is like literally the best part of the Percy Jackson books. If you are reading those books like and you're there for like the adventure and like the high stakes, like I'm there for Percy's narration, because he is so funny. Like Rick Riordan, again, one of my top 10 favorite guys. He just like is so witty and just like goofy in those books, and that really carried over to the series. I think that's like really what was missing in The Lightning Thief. Like Lightning Thief, like it takes some swings. It tries to hit with some humor, but it's not there to be funny. And I think like a lot of the Percy Jackson book is like taking a comedic spin on like this crazy stuff is happening. Literally like the opening pages is like, I'm 12 years old, I'm a demigod. You don't want to be a demigod because it freaking blows. And like that's literally what he says. So like the movie just didn't take that into account in its storytelling at all, because then it would have had this lighter, brighter, more lighthearted feel to it, whereas it was kind of taking the teen dystopian vibe. Listen, I can't not compare it to a teen dystopian movie because that's like what it looks like, that's what it feels like. It's crazy. I love Pierce Brosnan as Chiron, and I love Medusa as Uma Thurman, or Uma Thurman as Medusa. If I could be one celebrity, I would be Uma Thurman. I love that woman so much. Like the cast in the movie pops off. Like it pops off. Like I love that cast. I love that cast. Were they perfect in their roles? Probably not. But I liked that like the series didn't just try to get like big names in these roles. They were trying to like, they were choosing who was best for the role rather than like who is a big name that we can put on the poster, which I appreciate. However, Lin-Manuel Miranda is in the series. For what reason? For what good reason? Please tell me. Why is Hermes in it? I don't know. Why is the Hermes plotline in there? We'll get to it when we talk about the plot, because the Hermes plotline was not my favorite. If you're mad about the choice of Annabeth, literally like unsubscribe. Unsubscribe, because that little girl in the series as Annabeth was fantastic. She killed it. Honestly, Annabeth in the movie is just meant to be like a love interest. Like she's not really like super well developed. That's what I have to say about it. But honestly, I did have to like look up the budget for the show because I was like, why couldn't they get bigger names on the show? And I just like think that wasn't what they were trying to do. And that's fine. You know, if I was a big name in Hollywood, I would have wanted to be a part of Percy Jackson. So I was like, why did they reach out to me? Of course they wouldn't reach out to me because I'm literally nobody. But I just would have liked to see Uma Thurman reprise her role. Like that's all I really wanted. Now let's get into the plot. Let's get into the meat of things. I'm just gonna talk about things that stood out to me. I'm not gonna really go beat by beat in the book, the movie, the show, because that would take literally 5 years. There are some things that are interesting. I want to first talk about the Locust Casino. The Locust freaking Casino. Let me tell you about the scene. The scene in the book is fantastic. It's everything you could have imagined. If you don't know, if you're unfamiliar, basically the kids on their winding path of journey of their quest, they end up at a casino. It's the Locust Casino. It's out of the Odyssey. This casino is plopped right out of the Odyssey. You remember the casino scene in the Odyssey? You know when Odysseus goes into the casino, he plays the slots? No. Anyway, it's based on the myth in the Odyssey where you eat a locust flower and then you get like controlled by, is it Circe? It's one of those witches. Listen, I'm not an expert in Greek mythology. In the book, they get mind controlled. They like stay there for 5 days, I believe, and they're just having a blast, having a party time, and then they realize they're being like mind controlled, and like there's a guy who's been there since the 70s, and they're like, we have to get out of here. We have a quest to complete. In the movie, they make it like have this like big drug influence. Like it's so funny the way they're like having this big drug propaganda. They eat these locust cookies. Are they cookies? They look like cookies. And then they like get like losing their memory or like getting kind of like roped into the like fun and games of the casino, but like they have to keep eating these cookies, and then once they stop, their like memory and stuff becomes clearer. And I just think it's really funny that they really like were trying to like push the drug agenda in the movie, then had this like physical manifestation of being like, eat this thing, which is closer to like the myth, and I guess more teen because teens do drugs. It's an allegory. But it's really fun. Like it's more like casino-y in the movie. Like in the book, I pictured it more like a casino that was also like a Dave & Buster's. Dave & Buster's, is that what it's called? Are they still around? I don't know. Am I dating myself? It was like an arcade, but also a casino. And in the movie, it's just like very casino. They're playing Lady Gaga. And I just wanted to like emphasize the fact that they are playing Lady Gaga Poker Face while they're in this casino scene, because flash forward to the series, the TV series in the Locust Casino, they are playing Dua Lipa Levitating. And I want to tell you that it does not hit the same. It does not hit the same. And I don't know like who made the choice, the final decision to play Dua Lipa instead of Lady Gaga. I want everyone to know that I was upset by it. Nonetheless, the series Locust Casino is much more similar to the Locust Casino in the book because it has like the drugs. Oh my god. The drugs are being pumped into the air rather than them actually eating something, and they do have like VR games and stuff they're playing. There is like also the casino at the same time. What is important, an important distinction, is that they lose their memories in this casino in the series, and they also miss their quest deadline, which they don't miss in the book. But for some reason they miss it in the series. I don't know what the purpose of that was, but they do. Oh, I wanted to say more on the Lady Gaga of it all. The book came out in the early 2000s. I would place it 2006. That's what I would say. I don't know if that's right, but I'll fact check myself later. 2004 to 6 is when the book came out. The movie came out in 2010. The series came out in 2024. And I think the book is so, like, when I say it's a period piece, it's a period piece. The book is so rooted in the early 2000s. Like, it doesn't make like a ton of like pop culture references and stuff, but it's, to me, it feels like you're watching The Prisoner of Azkaban and like you're seeing like Hermione's pink fuck ass hoodie and you're like, that's the early 2000s. And it works for the movie because like it is 2010. Like we're not too far removed from when the book came out, and like the references are a little bit more updated, but not like super. Like the book mentions Hilary Duff twice. Hilary Duff. It literally mentions Hilary Duff twice. So Yesterday is canon in the Percy Jackson universe. I think that one of the things you lose, I'm not saying they had to do this in the series, but wouldn't it have been so fun if Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the series, was set in the early 2000s? Because listen, there would be no Dua Lipa and there would be no there's like mention of Twitter, and like it's always a choice. It's always a choice to like either bring something into the present day or leave it into when it was set. Something I did another book to movie thing about was Looking for Alaska, which kept the early 2000s setting in the series, and I loved that it did that because I just love that this is the early 2000s, and I was really missing that in the like Percy Jackson show because I feel like that would have been really fun. And maybe I just don't understand kids these days. I just learned what gaff means. Maybe I should get TikTok or something, but like I just don't know what the kids these days are saying. So there weren't a lot of like pop culture references in the Percy Jackson series, but I just thought it would be fun if it was in the early 2000s. A character I didn't really mention before because they're not important. They're like in the first act and then you pretty much don't see them again, is Smelly Gabe. Love his name, love his epithet. But Smelly Gabe is Percy Jackson's mom's husband. I got confused there. Who is like basically this like freeloading, gross, abusive guy. It's hinted at in the book that he's not only verbally abusive, but he is like physically abusive to the mom. The mom doesn't leave him until the end of the book because he like, his smell literally like masks the scent of Percy, and like so monsters don't go looking for him. I think that's really interesting. I think that's a great thing to tackle in a kid's book, and it's like it's very like, it's understated, I would say. Like it's not super in your face in any way. Like it's just kind of briefly mentioned in a sentence or two, but it was something I picked up on because I'm always interested in seeing how kids media handles like harder topics, and I wanted to like see how that compared in the movie and the series. And Greasy, what is his name? Greasy, Smelly Gabe, that's his name. Smelly Gabe in the TV series is, to me, not greasy enough. He's like, he should be more sleazy. He's definitely sleazy, but he is aggressive, and you get a scene where he kind of like, I think Grover like hits him, like knocks him out. That lined up with his depiction in the book. Interestingly enough, in the TV show, they really dulled his character, and I was really like, it really stuck out to me because I just didn't understand like why exactly that was, because he's just kind of like a doof. In the TV series, he's just kind of like, he's not the worst. Like there are worse. He's just kind of lazy and not all that nice, but he's also not like that. Like he's not doing anything particularly bad in the show. So I found that really interesting because it's such a different take on the character, and it definitely like completely alters like Percy's home life because he doesn't have a stepdad who's the actual worst, the worst possible thing you could imagine, but it happens to be the best thing that could be protecting him. He just has a stepdad who's kind of annoying and was also protecting him the whole time. Like, I like the contrast in the movie and the book of it being like, this is the worst possible situation, but like it strengthens the mom's character of being like, I did this for you. Like I made this sacrifice for you, but it's not in the series. And I don't know why, I just wanted to point it out. I guess while we're on that topic, another person with a bad family life, literally the home lives of these children is so bad. But the home life of Annabeth is really bad as well. In the book, she basically is cast out. She runs away from home, but her parents don't give a shit. She's the daughter of Athena, but her dad is like a professor and he got remarried and had kids and basically just forgot about Annabeth. And she just has been seen as like this monster and like everything has been blamed on her. And so she ran away from home when she was 7. That's when she meets Thalia and Luke, and that's that whole story. It's again really understated in the book, but she does have like, I'm trying to like not confuse the book and the series at the same time. I binged this all in 3 days. She just has like a monologue kind of talking about it, but eventually like she decides to go back home at the end of the book to her dad and like they're gonna try again. Kind of have this nice arc of a relationship that she's trying to repair. Well, even though it's not her fault that it was bad in the first place. But in the movie, who cares? In the movie, who cares? They're hunting for pearls. Okay, the movie doesn't care about Annabeth in the same way that the series and the book does. Annabeth in the movie is a love interest. It's more important to the movie Grover and Percy's relationship, their friendship, rather than like Annabeth having a character. Is that problematic? I don't know. It's up to you to decide. That's okay. But Annabeth in the show does have this monologue where she talks about it and it's really heartwarming and beautiful, and I really like that it was done. It's like slightly less dark. Like they like don't include a few details about her home life that were like more problematic, but it's really a nice addition because like you see that like, I don't know, I think it's like really humanizing to have these characters that are literally like half god and to have like these normal kid problems. And I'm sure that like audiences who are kids and are seeing kids be heroes and also have difficult home lives is really nice for them. So that's something I wanted to point out. Since I mentioned Dua Lipa, there's also an Olivia Rodrigo song in the series, and I have to say I cackled. I cackled because my mom was outside in the rain crying to Olivia Rodrigo, and if that is not the most Gen Z thing you've ever heard in your life, I don't know what is. I guess it should be mentioned that the movie plot is not the plot of the book. It's just not. The movie plot is basically orchestrated by Luke. And so it's very obvious that he's the villain from the beginning. Not only that, they find out very fast. They find out information super fast in the movie. Like they immediately tell you, they're like, Percy, your dad's Poseidon, you're a half-blood, you're going to Camp Half-Blood, you're going on this quest. Just kidding, there's not a quest. You're actually escaping from camp with these 2 idiots, all because Luke told you where to go and then you have to collect these 3 pearls to get out of the underworld. And he gave you a shield that actually has the lightning bolt, and he gave you these shoes so that they could kill you. And everything is just orchestrated by Luke. So it's like very Luke-centric, even though he's not in much of the movie, as makes sense. The like plot is completely different. But in the series, it's not like that at all. It is very much closer to the book, which I think is why like people like the series more. I think it's very telling like what the movie was trying to do versus what this series was trying to do in the opening scene. So the opening scene of the movie is Poseidon, who's played by that guy from Grey's Anatomy. I don't know if you knew that, but like he has an accent too, which is kind of funny. Anyway, he's Owen in Grey's Anatomy. He is talking to his brother Zeus, and they're basically just like, oh, you had a forbidden child. My lightning bolt is missing, yada, yada, yada. They're on top of the Empire State Building. It's very dark and gloomy and whatever. But the opening scene of the series is Percy. And so you're very much more grounded in Percy's narrative, Percy's like story, if you will, in the series than you are with the movie. The movie is more like Lightning Bolt. Like Lightning Bolt is main character. Whereas the series, it is all about Percy and it's about Percy's world that orbits around him. But you're not centered as much in Percy's character. Percy's character is just not very developed in the movie. Like it's not really about him. It's about someone that has to do the things that he does in the movie. It's not really unique to him. So it makes more sense that even though like, I mean, obviously like a series is longer, there's 8 episodes, you get more development of the character. You get his narration. That's important. That's important. That's so much better. That is so much closer to the book where you get his narration. I loved that. And you get like just like solo moments with him, like these solo shots of just him, like whether it's a close-up or whatever, of just Percy, which just really like ground you back to like, this is a story you're seeing through his eyes. It's not through the lens of someone else. And I think that's what's missing from the movie is like, it doesn't have the same perspective that the book has. The book is from Percy's perspective. The movie is not. And that's why you have these moments in the series where like, he's just flossing, he's peeing, he's like doing whatever. I'm sorry, that capture the flag scene was so funny. He's just like, or these quiet moments by himself, like where like no one else is in the shot. It's so important to the series that this is Percy's story, which I think makes it a stronger, more compelling piece of content. I have a couple last ones. Obviously, it's very clear in the movie that Luke is the villain. He has a villain monologue. I love a villain monologue. There's a villain monologue in the book. Like, I love when you just get like a villain like at the end of the book telling you what their entire plan was, and it's fantastic. However, Luke's motivations in the movie are completely different. He basically just hates gods in the movie and basically wants half-bloods to rule the world, the universe, I don't know. His motivations in the series, as in the book, is much different. He's serving Kronos, he's kind of brainwashed by him, and he still believes that like the gods are bad, but that the Titans are more favorable or whatever. But they do try to like humanize maybe is the bad word, but like they try to get us to sympathize a little bit with Luke in the series, which I think is really interesting. It's something that's not in the book, but they have this relationship set up between Hermes and Luke, you know, father and son, and you kind of have it established that it's like Hermes didn't parent well enough for Luke, and that's kind of like why he turned out this way, question mark. Really interesting, because I don't think like it's necessary. I think it was to give Lin-Manuel Miranda more screen time. I don't know. That's what I thought, because I don't know why Lin-Manuel Miranda was in the series other than the fact that he is an employee of Disney, and when Disney calls, you frickin' answer. I don't know. I felt like it was more like a villain origin story, kind of like I was also neglected by my dad and this is how I turned out, kind of to contrast with Percy, who feels neglected by his dad and he becomes like the hero that he is, to kind of like show you the two paths of what you could do with being the child of neglect, I guess. I don't, that was something that like was very interesting. Like, I feel like the series really tried to like make everything morally gray and humanize every character that was in it. I feel like I would be remiss not to mention like the Medusa plotline in the series, which tries to kind of tell more of her side of the story, because the whole myth of Medusa is wrought with problems. It's wrought with patriarchal problems, and they try to shed some light on that in the series, which I think is commendable, but I think they do just enough so that it's not like messing with the beats of the story, because like if you make her too sympathetic, then it's like, well, what about cutting her head off? Like, we have to get to the next thing and use her head to defeat the next monster. So like, so I think it's commendable to do that, because I think Greek mythology, again, I don't know that much about it, but it seems like there are a lot of abuses of power in there. I don't know, maybe that's a hot take. And the movie actually does try to do this. Like, I want to say that like Persephone is a character in the movie who's not a character in the book or show. She's mentioned in the book. She's on vacay in the book. She's on vacay with her mom. That's why she's not in the underworld in the book. But in the movie, she is in the underworld with Hades, and she has this kind of girl power moment, which I think like they were really trying something there. Like, they were trying to do what they were trying to do in the Medusa plotline in the series with Persephone in the movie. Like, they were trying to give her more agency, more power over her life. She ends up with Grover, which is so freaking strange. It's so strange. She like, I don't know. They have her like steal the lightning bolt from Hades, who tries to take it, and like eventually be the one to give it back to the kids and like help the kids and whatever. Again, them trying to like shed more light on like the problematic aspects of Greek mythology is a commendable effort and something I would like to see more of, but also like time and place. Like, a teen movie, that makes sense, but like a kid's movie, it's harder to kind of like balance being like, here's the truth of people stealing women and like R-wording them and, you know, taking them as prisoners in a nice kid-friendly package. And I think that the series did that in a nice, like, subtle way. I'm just gonna like rapid fire some other random thoughts I have to you about the book, movie, or show, and then we can wrap up this video. I just want to like make sure I don't miss anything. The seeds for Percy and Annabeth are firmly planted in the book. I feel like it's stupid to talk about the movie in this way, because like the movie, they are like very obviously flirting. Like, they are very blatantly flirting in the movie, but in the show I feel like they're also planted as well. There's like a cute hug scene, and the seaweed brain wise girl is always in there, and that's very cute. Ooh, I also want to mention that a big difference to me in the Percys in the movie and in the series are that the movie Percy is lucky and the series Percy is fated. Like, it is his destiny. They actually talk, they have like a line, Annabeth has a line where she's like, it's not luck, it's fate. And I feel like that's a big difference between the movie and the show. Like, the movie is all about luck, and the, well, not all about luck, but I feel like the movie is more about luck than the show is about fate. And there's also just like no fates, no destiny, no prophecy, no nothing in the movie, which is so upsetting, because I love, like, I love a prophecy, I love a curse, I love a destiny, I love that shit. Like, one of my favorite things to read about, one of my favorite favorite things to see, and that is just not at all in the movie. But we know that the movie is very different. Speaking of Medusa, the iPod scene in the movie is actual art and should be studied in film class. Thank you. I just feel like there were some weird choices with also the gods in the series because they didn't feel very godlike to me. Like, I really liked how the movie, like, eventually they were in their togas eventually at the end, and they were huge, and I thought that was cute. But in the series, he's just a corporate girly. He's just in the business casual. Like, he is dressed to the nines, and so is Huron in the series. Like, they're just wearing their business suits, and I feel like it's so out of place and it's so weird, and I just wanted them to seem more godlike. They were very normal. It was all about humanizing the gods, I feel like, in the series. Maybe that was like a common thread, maybe that was a theme, but I wanted them to be more godlike. Sorry. I think I have exhausted everything I wanted to say about Percy Jackson and everything that has been festering in my brain and in the last few days of consuming all of the Percy Jackson content. Well, not all of it. I'm sure there's a million fanfictions, which I have not partaken in. Let me know your favorite Percy Jackson fanfic in the comments down below. Maybe I'll read it. If you have any thoughts of the Percy Jackson series or movie or book that you would like to share, please let me know in the comments down below. These are my favorite videos to do. Getting to really dissect one or two or three pieces of media is very fun for me, and I clearly had lots of thoughts. So I want to leave you with what I always say at the end of my book before movies, which is read the book. Second, I would watch the series if you don't want to read the book, if you don't have the 3 hours it takes to read the book. Watch the series. If you want to watch the movie, I would say the movie's not that bad. It's not. I think the movie is only a war crime if you look at the source material, but the movie's not that bad. And that's kind of like my conclusion. Like, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief movie is okay. It's not as bad as you thought. It's only bad if you've read the book. And the series, I gotta say, hats off to that series. They really did it. They gave us all of the content from the book and more. They added, they modernized, and they really tried to do something. And I think they were very successful in that. So if you have time, read the book or watch the show. I think they would take about an equal amount of time, I gotta be honest with you. And watch the movie if you're feeling like a little nostalgic 2010s. If you want to see that iPod shot one more time, I would watch the movie just for a giggle. Just to see Pierce Brosnan as a horse. What is it called? Centaur? Yeah, just to do that, I would watch the movie. But if you're not looking for that, if you're looking for a more true to the book experience, I would say the show. Obviously. Those are my final thoughts. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!